Good evening, everyone. I'm Mallory Wood, Director of Marketing at M. Stoner, and your host for this evening's edition of Higher Ed Live. Please be sure to follow our conversation with the Higher Ed Live hashtag, and you can follow me at Mallory Wood. So tonight's show is a roundtable recap of the recent Higher Web New England Conference. This was the first of 5 regionals that are going to take place this year, leading up to the national conference, which is in Buffalo this October. And we have a killer panel of guests, which include organizers, presenters, and conference participants. So I can't wait to introduce them, but first I want to give a few shout outs to our sponsors. We couldn't do this without them. So first of all, we've got Omni Update. They're the leading web content management system provider for higher education. The company's web CMS, OU Campus, is secure and scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. Need a site for your faculty and staff? Find out how Pepperdine uses Omni Update CMS to create a community website. We're going to tweet a link right now. And our next sponsor is Integral. Higher Ed Live is sponsored by the creators of the school's app, Integral. They are a private Facebook community that is intended to boost enrollment and retention. Check out their blog, Integral Insights, for posts on admissions marketing, student engagement, and social media in higher education. We are going to tweet a link to the blog right now. So we have, like I said, a killer panel of guests with us tonight, and I am just so thrilled to bring them on. I think we have a few first-timers on Higher Ed Live, as well as a few folks who've joined us before. So I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves, and hey, Sven, why don't you go first?
Hi, thanks, Mallory. My name is Sven Oss. I work in Western Massachusetts as the lead web applications programmer at Mount Holyoke College, and I was really proud and excited to chair the conference committee for the first High Ed Web New England.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alana Riley. I'm from Providence College. I'm the Associate Director of Social Media and Web Design there. And I was with Sven on the conference committee, and it was very, very exciting to have the first regional in New England.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Denneen, and I work at Worcester Polytechnic Institute as the Director of Marketing Analytics, and I was a participant at the conference, so I got the easy part. I got to just listen to all these great presentations and meet a lot of great people.
Hi, I'm Carol Kilfeather. I am the Web Manager and Assistant Director of Institutional Marketing at Elms College in Chicopee, which is about 20 minutes from the Higher Ed Web New England Conference, and I'm a first-time attendee. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, like I said, I'm super excited about this panel of guests, and we are going to talk about all things related to the conference, as well as get into some issues that are happening and some hot topics and trends that we found during the conference. So I guess, you know, as we start this series of Higher Ed Live episodes dedicated to all the different regionals, honestly, my first question to you, Sven, as the one of the main conference organizers, is why did you want to host this regional, and why New England? What were your goals?
Well, let's see. I've been going to High Ed Web events since 2007 up in Rochester. I've been to many of the annual conferences, and I've found that the community of folks who attend and who present at that conference has been hugely important to me in terms of my ability to be effective in my job. It's a support group. It's a resource for technical and inspirational, psychological, all sorts of different ways that helps. And I also saw that while there were attendees from a few of the schools in my region, there are a huge number of schools, particularly some of the schools right near my campus, our consortial partners, who were not represented in that community. And I really wanted to bring those groups together to make more connections with the schools in this region, to give some of the folks in this region an opportunity to show what they do to the High Ed Web community, and to see what the folks in the higher ed web community have to offer.
Awesome. So do you feel like, you were able to build a lot of connections and bring new people into the community? And how do you think that'll benefit the organization?
Well, there was a show of hands at lunch. Tanya Oaks Smith, who was there representing the Regional Support Committee of High Ed Web, and who was also presenting, asked for a show of hands for first-time attendees. We didn't formally count first-time attendees, but we believe that we had half, probably more than half of the 150 attendees been in Rochester and Syracuse, which is pretty close to the home turf of the High Ed Web Conference. It ran for many years in Rochester. So naturally there are a lot of returning people, and there are a lot of students and other folks from the host institution that get to go. But we had we had over 20% of the attendees from the 5-college consortium, of which Mount Holyoke College, my employer and host of the conference, is a member. And most of those people had never been to a High Ed Web event before. I met people like Caro at this conference who works right down the road from me, one town over, but we didn't meet until we had a conference to bring us together, and that's true for so many other people. And I had less time than most people do to talk to folks at the conference because I was running around announcing something every hour. I think a lot of connections were made. I really hope that will prove to be the case over the year ahead.
All right, well, Caro, I'm going to toss this over to you because you were a first-timer. What was your impression of the conference? What did you think? Was it worth attending? And how do you think you'll stay involved or get involved with the organization?
I only wish it had been more than one day. I think we all tend to work in solitude a lot or in very small teams, and usually don't get a lot of support at our institutions just in terms of understanding what we do. So it was phenomenal to be surrounded by people who not only speak the same language, but also face a lot of the same issues and challenges. There was a great moment when during the opening remarks, somebody said, has anybody had the issue of, oh, you have to put this on the homepage? And everybody just, started laughing because it was so familiar. So it was absolutely worth it. It was great to connect with my peers and to be inspired. Again, you can get caught up in your day-to-day work and sort of lose the opportunities to seek out new ideas and to be surprised. So it was a really, really day well spent.
Yeah, and I have to say that, now it's been a few years and I've been to a number of these events, and I still walk away from each one kind of in awe at the smart people, the awesome ideas, everything that's in the room. And so, I think that all of your impressions as a first-timer don't go away just because you've participated in 5+ High Ed Web conferences. Bill, I want to throw this over to you because you were a participant as well. What were some of your first impressions of the conference, of the organization, and what were some really key takeaways for you? Bill, are you with us or are you on mute?
We've lost audio with Bill temporarily.
Ah, bummer. All right, well, we'll throw that one back over to Bill in a minute. I would love to talk about some of the sessions because it's going to be hard to not talk about all of them because they were all excellent. But were there any that totally surprised you? And Alana, I would love to throw this one to you since we haven't heard from you yet.
Yes, I can answer that. So I really enjoyed Jason Woodward's session. He talked about what we can learn from the startup community, which is, it's sort of a new concept. I don't think we've really talked about that too much, but he mentioned that places of higher education are supposed to be places of innovation and experimentation and trying new things, but so often we're really afraid to do that. Or people we work with or work for are afraid to let us try to do that. So it was a nice inspiring talk, I'd say, that encouraged us to keep kind of pushing forward, which I think, especially in the current state of higher education, is really, really important for us to do.
And Sven, do you have anything to add to that? Any sessions that you felt were really innovative?
Well, I thought, I didn't get to watch it, but I thought Alana was going to be most surprised by the session that she had to give as a backup presenter.
Well, that is true.
Surprise presentation. Honestly, the session that stuck with me most is one that didn't surprise me that it was, it was not a surprise to me that it was going to do that. So it's maybe not a fair answer to your question, but the Student Ambassadors panel was a very impressive example of the value of, a very impressive demonstration of the value of having students work as online voices of the college of two different institutions. And I had gotten to see Ashley and Tanner present in Syracuse last year along similar lines, but to see the whole group there, I mean, not the whole group, but a larger group of students and the staff that work with them demonstrating that was a really great experience. And I'm really, really glad that 150 people in the room or close to that were able to see that.
Yeah, I have to agree fully with that. I have presented about student ambassadors and getting students involved with admissions and marketing work at a number of conferences. And while I think my sessions were just fine, there's something so powerful about having those actual students in the room. I was talking about this actually over lunch today, about how it's one thing for the person organizing that or managing those students to get up and talk about it and say, oh, they're great and they're very capable of doing this. But I think that there's always some doubt from the audience, well, should we really leave these important communication tools up to students? And when I was moderating that session and listening to those students at the New England Conference talk about how passionate they are, how they really get it, how their managers have trained them effectively, and how they just have really embodied what it means to live the brand of their institutions in these online spaces. I don't think anybody in that room could doubt that a student is capable of doing this type of communication. Carol, were you in that session too? What did you think about that?
I was so impressed by all the students, and what I came away with from that is that giving them ownership of the college's brand a little bit is going to make them lifetime advocates. Like long after they've graduated, I think they're going to have it just ingrained into them to kind of be spokespeople for the college, and that's really powerful. And I think right now, especially, colleges struggle to capture young students and really help them become part of their alumni communities. Because the relationships are not what they were, for previous generations. So I think allowing them to become part of the institutional voice while they're still there is incredibly powerful, and it's going to have really positive, lasting effects for them.
Yeah, I can't agree more with what you just said. So I hear that we've got Bill back and his audio is working. So Bill, as a participant in the conference, what did you find surprising or really innovative about some of the sessions you attended?
Well, for me it was interesting to go to the things that I didn't really know anything about. One of my objectives was to just try to understand more things about what I do. So, I went to a session, one of the lightning rounds on JavaScript, and that was great. And I went to another on this was a full session on WordPress templates and things like that, where it's not necessarily part of my everyday job, but I think by understanding more about those things, it's going to help me, as we're evaluating a new CMS and as we're making other kinds of decisions.
So the lightning rounds were really popular at this conference, and I don't think I've been to a conference before at High Web or anything else that had that just amount of topics being discussed in such a short amount of time. I thought they were really interesting, and personally, I really enjoyed them. I'm wondering if somebody wants to follow on that and talk about some of the lightning rounds and some of the things that stuck out for them. So how about I throw it to you, Elena?
I have never been to a conference before where there was a lightning round, and when Sven and I were planning the conference with the committee, we were trying to figure out where should we put these, where in the day should they go, and it was perfect after lunch because we had a great keynote by Sarah Horton, and then we had our lunch, and then it was perfect to kind of kickstart everybody and get them back in the groove, and it was fun too. I mean, even moderating, I guess, one of the rooms, introducing people and having them kind of run up and set up and do their thing, and then somebody else would run up. It was really energetic, and it kept the flow going, or it picked it back up rather, I think, after we had some downtime. So I love them, and if we ever are able to do another regional, they would definitely be part of it. And I liked giving one too. I thought that was fun.
Nice. We were talking about the lightning rounds today at lunch at the M. Stoner office, and Gareth, M. Stoner's marketing assistant, said that Robin's talk was like a quad espresso shot, that she just totally brought the energy, and that for him, her talk was really helpful because she just covered so many interesting tools in such a short amount of time. Sven, what do you have to say about that?
Well, we borrowed the idea of the lightning talks from High Web Syracuse last summer. I had presented in the lightning round, and the wonderful thing about it, aside from energizing you after lunch, which is how they used it as well, is that it is less intimidating to prepare. It's putting together a 45-minute talk and timing it and practicing it and trying to figure out how much time do I need for questions and so forth is tough. With 10 minutes, it fits or it doesn't. It's pretty easy to edit yourself, to throw stuff out, and also to rehearse it, because you can rehearse a 10-minute talk many times before you give it. I love the diversity of it. I love the fact that you'll sit in the room through something that's not quite targeted at people who do your job, simply because in 15 minutes there'll be a different topic, and you'll learn something from those people. So there's less of a reason not to stay there. And the diversity. Elena and I were in different rooms because we were introducing speakers in the two different session rooms for the lightning talks, and so we have like completely different experiences of the lightning session. But people came away saying the same things about both rooms. We had a really difficult time programming this conference because we got such a great volume of excellent proposals, and we had to reject a lot of things that we know would have been really good. And we struggled with whether we wanted to have one room with one lightning round in just one room, or a lightning round in two rooms, because we didn't really want to divide our audience in half and have people not see half of these. But there is just too much good material. I could imagine doing lightning round twice as long, really, or do it twice. I was pleased to hear Cara's comment about the day being too short, because we made the day much too full to not reject any more of our proposals. The lightning round's a nice way to let more people in.
Yeah, I have to agree with Sven and Elena. It was definitely the perfect pick-me-up after a plate of pasta. And I think it was definitely less intimidating. I definitely talked with my colleagues about maybe doing something like it next year. Until Robin Smale presented, she did the Shotgunning the Awesome presentation, and she is a force of nature. So it was apps and apps and kittens, and it was incredibly energetic and so informative, and just for everybody, they brought so much humor and creativity into every 10 or 15 minutes that they got. So it was definitely a highlight.
So we've kind of touched on this topic that there was a keynote speaker. So let's dive into that. Sarah Horton, the Web Strategy Project lead on the Harvard Web Publishing Initiative, in my opinion, was a huge hit as a keynote speaker. It was just a super interesting keynote. Bill, what points did she make maybe that resonated with you most?
Well, it was just a mix of things that she said resonated so much with the kinds of things that I've run into, and to see how methodical they were about solving these problems was just fantastic. Dealing with, Harvard is such a big organization and very distributed, and with a long tradition of different parts of the organization having control over what they do. And so the challenge that they face trying to get people to give up a little bit of control in order to have a better site, and the trade-offs that they had to offer, was really powerful. It was just something that we all face, I think.
And Kara, what about you?
Oh, so I can't, for some reason I can't hear or see Bill, so I'm not sure what he said. I hope I don't repeat too much of it. But I thought the keynote was phenomenal. The biggest takeaway for me is, and I'm a student of innovation, so some of the books that she suggested I've read, was how important independence and autonomy is in developing something new. When you design by committee, and when you're designing for everything as is, you have to make a lot of concessions by nature, and you are still forced to think in the box. So it's kind of underscored that it's important to advocate for some autonomy with new projects, to really kind of go a little further out on a limb and explore something new, and then test it and then come back and see how well it works or how well you can adapt to it, rather than just trying to build on what you already have, because then you just get what you already have.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the other sessions. Now, Alana, I know that you mentioned you presented a lightning round. What was it about?
Yes, I did. It was on project management. So as Sven had indicated, I was not prepared initially to give that. We had, unfortunately, somebody could not come to that. So I had a 45-minute presentation I gave 2 years ago at the national conference on project management. So I condensed that into a 10-minute lightning talk, which was difficult, but I did it. I think I still had 45 slides, but that's okay. So overall, I think it went pretty good. People that follow me on Twitter, I guess, probably know this, but I'm big on positivity. So unlike a typical project management presentation that probably starts, right out of the gate with the project charter and processes, I started with positivity, kind of talking about how as a project manager, how you can manage your staff by first managing yourself, and kind of instilling some positivity in them, just being a good role model, good leader, energetic, positive. So we talked a little about that, and then we moved into the meat of project management, which is, again, the charter, the work breakdown structure, some different tools you can use, stuff like Basecamp, simple things just to get you started. I know a charter or a work breakdown structure can be intimidating to people who have never done it before. So even using something like Basecamp to just get your foot in the door can help to start. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed giving that presentation. I enjoyed the lightning aspect of it, I guess.
Awesome. And so I presented as well. I presented on video, and I'm not going to talk about my own presentation as a host. So I know that Bill was in the room. Bill, what were some of your takeaways? I think my presentation might have been the only one really focused on using online video at the conference.
Yeah, it was great. One point that you made is something that it's so easy to forget, but to focus on one concept. And with videos, with anything we do really, with web pages or anything, but I think this is especially an issue with video, where you try to do too much, and you want it to be long, and you want it to get everyone in the video who's important. And you just can't do that. You have to focus on one topic and tell it concisely and memorably. You know, and you also said viral is not a strategy, and that's really, you know, right on. It's great, you know, if you can get something to go viral, but you have to focus on engagement and you know, providing something that's entertaining, that's going to get the message out and still entertain. And those are some great examples that you showed too. You know, I thought um, the math rap, that was that was very funny.
From Brigham Young. I love that video. About the point around not trying to throw too much into one video, I think that's, you know, to do a video really effectively, it's so important to really focus on one idea and remember that people's attention spans are so short. So you want the opening to be very catchy and draw them in instantly. And, you know, and then move quickly to what you're trying to get at to accomplish, you know, your point in the video, and making one point, not 25, can help make the video so much more effective. Now, as I was presenting, there was another really awesome session going on. It was called In the Moment, Creating an Interactive Commencement, and I'll tell you, I was so upset about having to miss that one because it was the one I wanted to see most. But Carol, I know that you actually attended that session, so could you give a quick recap and maybe one of your key takeaways?
So this was a team from Suffolk University, and they talked about last year's commencement and how they tried to make it as interactive and engaging as possible. So they invited not just students but faculty and staff to tweet live from commencement. They had a red carpet show, a pre-show. They were interviewing people as they were getting ready. They had their own hashtag, and they had a Storyfy feed, and Jessica, who I think now she's up at Hamilton College, she was kind of running the show, and she had to make split-second decisions on basically, as things were coming up in her feed, whether to, you know, feed them to the screen where everybody could see them, and you know, knowing full well that some students would tweet things that may be inappropriate, maybe in another language that she would understand, and kind of trying to make those judgment calls. But the response they had was phenomenal, because it took an event that can seem very kind of stiff and stale and traditional and really made it something exciting. And it really drove a lot of traffic. They had a live feed that was being watched all over the world. So really kind of unprecedented stuff for them, certainly, and really for Suffolk. So they're definitely going to do it again. And you know, it really speaks to a growing trend in real-time marketing right now, which is very much about sort of building this relationship and dialogue in the moment and responding to people as they are engaged with you. A great example was what Oreo did during the Super Bowl when the lights went out, and they, you know, very quickly came up with that, you know, you can still dunk in the dark campaign. It was just phenomenal, and just so the takeaway from that was, you know, you have all these tools and you have all these best practices, but if you can develop a personality around your brand and your institution, and you can be responsive and kind of have a really good intuition around making those decisions, you can kind of go from social to really magical.
Let's stay on the commencement theme for a minute, because it's obviously coming up, right? We're maybe a month or so, month and a half away for most institutions. So I think this is a super timely topic. And Alana, I know that you do stuff around commencement. So do you mind giving us some information and maybe an idea of what might happen this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on a team of 5. 5 people are part of my team, web services at Providence College. So we kind of tag team commencement. We do a combination of live uploads to Flickr. So one of us will be walking around the commencement arena in Providence, taking photos, uploading them in real time. We do the same thing to Facebook. This year we're actually going to print out little cards and hand them to people as we take their picture, saying, hey, go to Facebook after the fact, tag yourself, go look at, you know, the albums we're making, the photos you're in. We interact with people via Twitter. We do a live stream, and then we chat with people via live stream too. This year we're doing something pretty cool. I don't know if anyone's heard of a gigapan, but our videographer, Chris Judge, just got one. So we're going to have that on the front of the commencement stage and take a giant snapshot, really, of the arena that people are going to be able to go in and I think tag themselves in via Facebook as well. So we try to make it really engaging as possible, you know, again, via Facebook and Flickr and Twitter and live stream, try to interact with as many students, parents, alums, people watching commencement, people from home that can't come to the commencement because people get a limited amount of tickets. So we really try to promote the live stream as much as we can.
Awesome. That's really cool. So let's talk about, I know we have maybe another 10-15 minutes for tonight's show. So let's talk about one more presentation, and let's focus on one of the lightning talks. And so Sven, I'm going to throw this to you in a second, but what really impressed me about Jake Dolan's presentation, which was called Building a Better Web, and kind of focused on some lessons he's learned as the web has grown at Montana State University, was that he was able to fit it all into 10 minutes, because I feel like that's a 3-week-long conversation. What do you have to say about that session, and what were some of your takeaways?
Yeah, boy, Jake kind of distilled the lessons that he learned over the course of years of going to higher ed web conferences and working with the people in that community. They're lessons that I have heard before and forget, and it's really important to be reminded of them. I encourage people to look at his slides on our website, and ne.higheedweb.org. You'll find the conference site there, and you can view the slides of many of the presenters. But Jake reminded people of things that are from pragmatic ideas like tying everything to your strategic goals, because that's how you'll be able to get the resources, get the time, get the green light to make projects happen, to things like treating other people decently, finding the folks on your team that you can learn from, teaching what you have learned to other folks, not burning bridges. And some of these lessons came up in other talks. Tanya Oak-Smith had some similar lessons about treating people decently and building relationships, and not being willing to not being willing to burn a bridge and let it sit there. And that stuff is really important. It's not technical. It doesn't apply to some particular skill that we use day to day. It is all about how we approach our work. And there wasn't a lot of that kind of focus at the conference. I thought it was really valuable and inspiring.
Awesome. I think another takeaway from his session for me was that there's a variety of skill sets needed to really succeed in this web world of higher education. And I think one of those skills is probably understanding ROI, the ability to review and synthesize data, and set metrics and goals for the work that you're doing. And so Valerie Fox, who was supposed to join us tonight but unfortunately had some tech issues, did a session on using analytics during a redesign process. And Bill, I believe that was a session that you attended. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Earlier, I mentioned that I went to some things that were kind of outside my day-to-day and how interesting that was. But this was a talk that was really right on the money in terms of what I do every day. And I have a pretty new role at WPI. We created a new analytics position, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make this stuff work, how to use it, how to change how we think about things and how we do things, so that we can take a more rational approach and more evidence-based decisions. And it's not always clear to me that we can really do this, that it's really going to work. But to hear Valerie go through the process that they did for their admissions websites was just fantastic. I mean, it was all the things that I really want us to be doing, and they really nailed it, I think, in terms of using user groups to test usability, the way they tested wireframes with different groups of people, and then filling in the gaps with Google Analytics and figuring out paths through content, and how all of that sort of came together, not only to guide them and help them figure out what to do, but also to help them sell the idea and to get their internal clients on board and realizing and understanding just what this redesign was doing for them and what kind of business impact it had.
So, Elena, talk a little bit about some of the skill sets that people might not realize we have, and how maybe when you're working with clients within your own campus, you kind of need to make them aware of that. I think that came out in one of the presentations.
Yes, it did. Tanya Oak-Smith gave a great presentation on client services, and I guess this is probably another presentation that stood out to me. She told a story about a client she was working with who wanted new imagery for their website. So I think she went out and bought, maybe 4, 5, 6 images from stockphoto.com or something like that, and she got them, and then the client didn't like any of them. I think they may have seen them prior to, I'm not sure, but she kind of gave them a fake bill, so to speak, just to say, this may be digital, but that doesn't mean it's free. I think if we have to order new business cards, for instance, we don't think twice about paying the copy center or having the copy center charge our department. But when it comes to a website, the idea of paying for a website seems so foreign to people, so ridiculous almost. So Tanya was saying that at times she'll consult her freelance friends and say, if you were going to do this web project or this graphic design project, what would you charge? How much would you charge? And she can present people with a fake bill in that sense that's legitimate from, again, a freelancer doing that work for them. So it's just kind of an interesting takeaway. It put things in a little bit of a different perspective for me to hear that.
So another skill set I think that's really important that was touched upon in a few presentations at the conference, but we haven't talked about yet tonight, is content. The ability to write it, the ability to organize it, to curate it, and all its many different forms, of course, not just written content, but photography, video, etc. Would anybody like to touch on that? What were some of your takeaways around content strategy? Anyone can chime in here. Caro, go for it.
My main takeaway, this is something that I think most of us know from experience, is that it has to be strategic. I think different institutions can run the full gamut from really struggling to produce any content and to get staff and faculty engaged in creating it, and on the other end of the spectrum, having too much content and having to educate people about yes, this sounds very interesting to you, but is it a good fit? Is it something that somebody's going to read and engage with online, or is it better suited for another medium? So just understanding that there have to be goals for content too. It's not just you're filling the space that you've created on pages, that it needs to align to a strategy.
Awesome. So, I'm curious, with the group that we have here, how many hats do you wear in your day-to-day jobs? Because I imagine you wear a lot of them. And I think that that's something I really saw at the conference, was that so many people are really being asked to do so many different things related to the web right now. So, Bill, maybe I'll turn this over to you first. How many different hats are you wearing at WPI?
Oh, well, quite a few. It's funny. I'm sort of a bridge between marketing and IT in a lot of ways, and that's a big part of what I do. I'm involved in the marketing programs teams and homepage content decisions. I'm also involved sometimes on the technical side of even just sort of backing up our CMS administrator and doing those kinds of things. I'm chairing or co-chairing the CMS evaluation group, so we're looking into our next generation content management system. There's a lot of hats, so I'm sure there's more too.
Absolutely. Sven, what about you?
Well, I work in the IT side of our operation, and naturally, one of the main systems that we support is the primary college website. So we support the content management system that runs that, but also a variety of other things. I'm a programmer. When something needs to get built as a custom application, or when applications need to be integrated, that's something that I do along with other people on my team. And so that gets me involved in things like on-campus events, like our senior symposium, or things like that. I also manage a group of student programmers, so there are a lot of opportunities for mentoring and for looking for assignments for people, which will not only get a job done for us or free our hands, but which will also teach somebody an essential skill. And that's quite a change of pace from thinking primarily of how to achieve the project goals.
I love on Twitter right now, Sarah just said, I don't think I can count that high, in reference to how many hats she wears. That's probably been one of my favorite tweets so far tonight.
And can I just say
Alana,
she put on 2 or 3 more hats to help us put this conference on. Sarah Ryder, who tweeted that, was also responsible for things ranging from our conference website to helping to shop for gifts for our keynote speaker.
Does the girl sleep? That's the question. All right, Elena, hats, go.
Hats, okay. Yeah, so my time is split at Providence College between web design and social media. So, and they're, 2 pretty different mediums. So I think, I'll say the social media aspect of it, it gives me a chance to get involved in a lot of different things with a lot of different people. I just had a meeting with our School of Business with their Business Advisory Council, and it was really neat hearing about what they're doing. They have a student program, a student entrepreneurship program they're starting up, I think in conjunction with Beta Spring, which is a company in Providence dedicated to helping people build their startup that Jason Woodward is part of. So it's really interesting. I do like, I guess, the different hats I wear, because they tend to put me in situations I wouldn't normally be in. If I was just doing web design, I would have no idea that we had, this entrepreneurship program in the business school that I'm now going to hopefully be involved in, maybe be a mentor of some type. So, different hats can get overwhelming at times, but as a whole, I do enjoy it. I'd rather have a few too many than not enough.
I wonder if that's a tweetable comment. Overheard. I'd rather have a few too many than not enough.
It might be until I regret it, and then I have 20 hats and wish I had 2.
So as we're kind of winding down this episode, I'd love to hear what everyone's favorite memory was from the conference. Carol, I'm going to throw this to you.
To me first, I think Robin's lightning talk was just tremendous. If I had been in any kind of food coma, it would have shaken me out of that. And it was just incredibly energetic and inspiring. So that was definitely a highlight. But also just kind of the group groan when somebody would come up with a shared complaint.
Yeah, my favorite moment was, well, I knew it was going to be my favorite moment. I was looking forward to it from the moment that we got approval to have the conference. Was watching my friends from inside and outside the higher ed community, walk through the door at the meetup and at the conference and arrive to this event. And just as good was the end of the day, knowing that we all knew so many more of those people. That was a really good feeling, and I look forward to doing it again some year, a few years out from now.
Yeah, and for me, kind of along the same lines, it was all about seeing people. It was I saw a whole lot of people that I hadn't seen in a long time, met some people for the first time, just discovered interest, met some people that I had no idea were going to be there, and it was just really fun to connect with people.
I'd have to say my favorite memory is definitely seeing how many new people were there. So we tried to do a lot of outreach to people who were not affiliated with the national conference. So we did a lot of email marketing, social media marketing to schools in the New England area. So it was a very cool moment when we kind of asked everybody to stand up who was new, and a good portion of the room stood up. So that was really exciting, and I think that's a huge plus to having regionals. We can kind of get people into the high ed web fold who normally might not be able to afford to attend a national conference based on budgets or what have you. So I think that was probably my favorite moment.
My favorite moment happened before the conference even began, during the opening reception, and it was a little later in the evening. There was a group of folks who had stayed a little later to eat dinner, and the guy, Bob, his name was Bob, he was kind of the waiter, asked to take care of the rowdy bunch of Hyatt Webbers, and he was just awesome. So shout out to Bob. But he kind of sat down and said, "Hey, I hear you guys are talking about social media. I do some social media work for some local businesses. Can I pick your brain?" And it was just so neat that, that Bob wanted to talk to us and participate in the conversation about social media. So I think, that was one of my favorite moments, if not my favorite, just because it showed that, the energy was, able to be extended past even the higher ed industry. It was just really cool. So, Bill, I think you've got one more memorable moment.
Well, yeah, and this was, there were rumors of this existence, but I finally met in person Bill Denneen, not to be confused with Bill Denneen. We had known of each other for a long time, but had never actually met in person. That was fun. And Sven took pictures too, so there's evidence.
There is evidence.
I tweeted one a few minutes ago.
Alana, did you have something to say?
Yeah, kind of about Bob. I really like that he introduced himself with his full name. So he came up to us at the conference and he went, "Hi, I'm Bob Moriarty. I'm going to be taking care of you tonight." It was funny. So I didn't know you guys had that conversation, but I'm not surprised. He seems like a good guy, very social.
Yeah. And he was always there when I turned around looking for him.
He was happy to refill your beer, wasn't he? So, Sven, can you talk about what we've got to look forward to from Hyatt Web in 2013? I know there's 4 more regionals, and we're going to do recap episodes on every single one of them this year. And then, of course, in October, we've got the national conference in Buffalo. So, do you have any, as being that you were the chair, I wonder, do you have any insider info that you can give us about what Hyatt Web is doing this year?
Boy, I don't know. I don't think I have scoops that I am privileged to give, but I do want to make sure that people know about these conferences. Hyatt Web Florida is happening next, April 22nd and 23rd in Gainesville, Florida, followed by Hyatt Web Michigan, which is May 20th and 21st in Flint, Michigan. Let's see if I got these in the right order. I do Hyatt Web West is June 2nd and 3rd in Orange, California. That is our first West Coast regional. And I'm not going to be able to go to it, but I'm really excited that it's happening because we'll be having an annual conference out there next year. And Hyatt Web Arkansas is July 25th and 26th in Little Rock, Arkansas. And then, of course, as you said, we've got the 2013 annual conference in Buffalo. That is October 6th through 9th. If you folks came to Hyatt Web New England and one day was not enough, go to Buffalo. You will be exhausted and blissed out at the end of it. The annual conference is an amazing experience, and you will make even more friends and new connections at that. I can't encourage you strongly enough. And that's it for for the year as far as I know.
Now, aren't the proposals, call for proposals out right now for
Thank
Buffalo?
You. Yes. Well, you're right. The call for 45-minute talks is still open for another week or so. It is open through April 12th, and the poster presentation deadline is July 1st. And I do not know when registration is going to open, but I think it's going to be pretty soon, so do watch for that. And know that these Hyatt Web conferences are notorious for selling out early during their early bird deadlines in many cases. That happened with ours. It happened with the annual last year, so don't wait.
Good message. Don't wait. All right. Well, Everyone, it was just really great having you join me tonight. And for those of you who have been watching for the last hour, thanks for sticking with us. I hope that our conversations tonight were interesting. And if you attended the New England Conference, I hope that we were able to bring back some great memories for you. If you weren't able to attend, I hope that you can see just how awesome of a conference it was. It was just really killer. So I'm thrilled that this group was able to join me on Higher Ed Live tonight. And got to plug next week's show. Travis Brock is going to be back as a guest host, and he will be bringing on the new International Brand Master. So that's going to be a really exciting show. The two of them will be discussing all things branding, marketing, and higher ed. So it'll be great. Don't forget to join us next Thursday night at 7 p.m. And thanks again, everyone. This is Mallory Wood, and we're going to sign off now from Higher Ed Live. Thanks, and bye-bye.